Hello everyone and welcome back to Celestia Astrology. Today I'm going to be looking at the total solar eclipse that's happening on April the 8th and will be visible across nearly all of America. This eclipse carries a unique astrological significance and I'm going to be unpacking that meaning for you and looking at the astrology of this eclipse. So first looking at what eclipses are and the basics. With solar eclipses, they always happen at the time of a new moon when the moon and the sun are aligned. And according to NASA, solar eclipses occur when the sun, the moon and the earth line up either fully or partially. And obviously with a total eclipse, then it's a full alignment. And a solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the earth and the sun. And that casts a shadow on Earth that either fully or partially blocks the sun's light in some areas. And this only happens occasionally because the moon doesn't orbit in the exact same plane as the sun and the Earth do. The sun travels along the ecliptic line, which is a very constant line, and the moon travels in a serpentine pattern. And the time when they become aligned is known as eclipse season, and this only happens twice a year. And we get pairs of eclipses. In this case, we've had a lunar eclipse, which is followed 2 weeks later by a solar eclipse, and sometimes it's the other way around, a solar eclipse followed by a lunar eclipse. So the total solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, and it completely blocks the face of the sun. And people located in the centre of the moon's shadow, when it hits the earth, will experience this total solar eclipse. The sky darkens as if it was dawn or dusk, and if the weather permits, if you're in the path of the total solar eclipse, you will see the sun's corona, which is the outer atmosphere of the sun, which is otherwise usually obscured by the bright face of the sun. So for us, this tends to signify a time of potent new beginnings, because it happens at the time of a new moon, and new moons signify new beginnings, and the solar eclipse really amplifies that energy. However, it becomes a bit more unpredictable. This solar eclipse falls in the fiery sign of Aries, and Aries also marks the beginning of the astrological new year. So this underlines the energy of the new beginnings for us. And Aries represents fresh starts, initiative, and also the need to assert oneself and really learn about who you are. And this sets the stage for a period of dynamism and the potential for significant change. And to add to the significance of this eclipse, Aries is the sign of the sun's exaltation, which is where the sun is able to be treated as a valued guest. If you think of royalty visiting another country when they go on a tour, as opposed to being in their own dominion where they rule, but they have the difficulties of rulership as a valued guest when they go on a royal tour. They're exalted everywhere that they go, they're treated as the valued guest, they're feted and given everything that the host believes that they need, but it might not actually be exactly what they do need or crave at that time. You know, they may not get as much peace or the downtime that they might usually get at home. They might not have all of the home comforts that they usually desire. But at the same time, there's a lot of luxury and people trying to meet their every whim and desire. So this is what the sun's experiencing at the moment, is that all of its perceived needs are being met. And to underline that, the eclipse is actually happening at the very degree of the sun's exaltation, which is 19 degrees of Aries. And exaltation signifies a place of power and the optimal expression for a planet. So the sun in Aries feels very confident, assertive, and very ready to take charge. This specific degree within Aries also falls within the 10 degrees of the Decan that's ruled by the sun in Aries. And this Decan, according to both classical and the triplicity rulerships of Decans, which is used more by the Vedic traditions, is also ruled by the sun. So it's a double rulership, and our attention is therefore drawn to this. We see an intensification of that planetary energy because of this double rulership. Kira Ryberg says in her book on the Decans that the imprint the Decanic ruler leaves is slightly deeper. It's impressed upon the cosmos with a bit more intensity and vigour. And in this Decan, that the eclipse falls within, it gives it an even stronger solar power. And I've also added the image provided by the Wild Way Oracle deck by Nicole Lannart, and I'll put her details in the description below. And she's given us the image of the bear on his rock, ruling the forest, and he is also wearing the crown, embodying the solar energy, and she's titled this Decan Take the Lead. And the bear has now claimed his kingdom, but is asking, how will you govern it? How will you lead? Because if you create your kingdom, you want to decide how you will be followed by others. It's for you to decide. It's your time to shine and take your rightful place on the throne, but all positions of power come with responsibility as well. If you want to be a respected sovereign, you've got to choose your path and your protocols wisely. It's time to tap into the authentic power that lives inside you while you're creating this world of your own making. So the key words that we're given for this Aries II Decan is sovereignty, shape your world, and personal power. And this is much the essence of this solar emphasis of this Decan. The possibilities that are presented when we create our own world, when we're not reliant on the whims of others or following their rules, we can create our own. But this over-reliance on the self can create hubris and a tendency to see your vision as the only right one. So we are asked to be authentic and staying humble as well, and open to the ideas and feelings of others while we take this path, and to be aware of the echo chamber and the yes men. In this Decan that the eclipse falls within, it gives it an even stronger solar power. So a certain star quality can emerge, but also so does the internal battle with the self that the sun represents. So a Decan is a smaller subdivision within a zodiac sign. In each zodiac sign there are 3 Decans, and in total there are 36 within the complete zodiac. And Decans predate even the 12 zodiac signs that we're most familiar with, and they often come with many myths and stories, and they give us deeper insight into what's happening within those 10 degrees. So in this case, the sun is not only exalted, but ruling its own domain within this sign, and this double emphasis on the sun truly magnifies its influence. Astrologer Austin Coppock, who I've been recently taking a Decan course with, calls this face the crown, and Susan Chang, who writes many books on tarot, and the tarot cards associate with the Decans as well. So astrology and tarot go very much hand in hand, calls this Decan a kingdom of gold. It's here where the planets reach a certain elevation and where they're able to create their own kingdom. But this privilege also comes with a unique set of challenges, which is the nature of the solar. You can generate your own reality through sheer will, focus, and consistency. And we know that the sun is nothing but consistent. We can map its path. It moves 1 degree a day, which is very consistent. It's the most consistent of all the planets. It never goes retrograde, and it follows a set path. We can rely on it to rise and set every single day. And the time of the solar eclipse is the only time when we have to contemplate the losing of the sun. So this eclipse, as we know, is a total solar eclipse. It's going to be visible across a specific path stretching across Middle America, and it will be witnessed as a total eclipse in 15 states, but also a partial eclipse will be visible across the whole of America, as well as the countries surrounding it. And those within the path will witness a dramatic darkening of the sky, highlighting the transformative nature of this event. And they will also witness the corona of the sun, which is said to be quite a magical experience. And even for those of us outside of the path, the eclipse and the energy of it will still be potent. And for those of us whose charts that it affects, it will bring, as Chris Brennan has said, it can make small things bigger and big things smaller. So it can bring significant shifts in our lives if it affects us in our chart. So on a global scale, this eclipse is classified as part of Saros series 139, and you can find details of the Saros series on the nasa.com website. And the Saros series are cycles of eclipses that repeat roughly 18 years in roughly the same area of the astrological chart, with each eclipse moving slightly forward by roughly about 10 degrees each time within the series. So this series could signify significant shifts in leadership on the political landscapes or even technological advances. And we've already seen in Europe that two leaders in Ireland, the Taoiseach and the DUP leader, have either voluntarily or otherwise been stepped down from their posts within this eclipse portal between the lunar eclipse and the solar. And the focus is on pioneering new ideas and taking bold action as well. And this particular eclipse is number 30 out of 71, so it's relatively new within the series. And if you can cast your minds back, you might remember previous eclipses in this series that occurred in 1970, 1988 or 2006. So if you can remember significant changes and themes in your life that happened in those years, then it's likely that you may re-experience those themes reoccurring this year, but they're likely to bring a fresh twist or seasoning, different spice, because obviously you've matured since then, your life has changed, so your settings are different and you're bringing a different perspective 18 years later. So although the theme may be similar because it's in the same area of the chart, you're looking at it. My teacher Adam Ellenbass describes it as a spiral staircase that we move up with astrology. So although the themes and the area of the chart is the same, we're looking at it from a different, higher perspective up that spiral staircase. So we react differently, we've got more information, so we experience things differently as well. And adding another layer of complexity, this eclipse is exactly conjunct Chiron, who is also at 19 degrees. And Chiron is an asteroid who represents the wounded healer. He signifies past wounds that can become sources of strength and wisdom for us. So the eclipse may stir up past hurts related to our sense of self or our place in the world. However, it's also bringing in an opportunity to heal these wounds, to examine them, to be given a fresh opportunity to take action, to address them, or to deal with them differently. And if we do that and take these opportunities, then we can emerge with a newfound sense of confidence and purpose, and also the ability to help others with the information that we've gathered. We have Venus, who's newly entered into Aries, the planet of love and relationships, harmony and peace, and she will be going direct during the eclipse in Aries. And we also have Mercury, the messenger planet, who will be retrograde. So Mercury can lead to reversals or miscommunication, delays, especially in areas related to travel or communication, technology, and the ways that we process information. But we can also use this time when Mercury is retrograde to just slow down a little. All the RE words, reflection, revisiting, revising, past issues in our communication style and how we process information. So it's a good time to just make sure we've backed up everything, but also redo those things that need our attention, and to maybe just slow down, check things, double check things that you can. And Mars, the ruler of Aries, is not yet in a place of dignity by bound or Decan. That won't happen until the 16th of April, where we might see a shift for the planets that are presently in Aries. But this means that Mars's influence is somewhat weakened at the time of the eclipse. However, when he gains strength, that will provide some much needed support for the ambitious energy of the eclipse. And eclipse events don't all happen in the one day or in the eclipse portal, but quite often things can be seeded. Very small events may occur within this time that we don't yet know the significance of. And because it's a long-lasting energy, things that come in we may not realise the significance of yet. Patrick Watson, the astrologer, gave a great example of an eclipse that affected his chart that he thought nothing had happened, and forgot about it and later found out that actually his stepdaughter was born, his future stepdaughter was born on that date. But he didn't find out until many years later that that date and that eclipse would be significant for him. So that's one example of how it can be important for us, but we may not know anything about it at the time. So you may think, this didn't mean anything for me. And it can only be maybe even years later that we find out that in actual fact the date was significant, particularly if it looks significant in your chart. So I hope that gives you some insight into what it holds, and I hope you will join me for the Astro Mindfulness exercise as well, which will help you just align with the energy of this eclipse and welcome in the benefits and what it's offering, as well as the challenges that it might present for us. If you've enjoyed this, I'd be really grateful for your likes, your subscribes and your comments. If you could rate the channel. If you're listening on a podcast, I'd be really grateful, and thank you for your time and for listening.